Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to another session on Unacademy CAT-alyst. I am Parikshit, your quants and LRDI expert on the Unacademy platform. First thing that I say is give me 10 seconds to ensure that I'm streaming live before we get started with today's session. Okay, I think we are streaming live and we are good to start. So today's short session, right? I will talk about these last 20 days before your CAT, the LRDI strategy and some quick tips that you need to score well on your exam. Remember, today is the 5th and 29th of November is the D-Day. So we are hardly 20 days away from the CAT at this point of time. So it is very important that you focus on tips and tricks, smart tricks and tips to improve your score and maximize your attempts in these last few days. So let's get started with today's session. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, the last 20 days. Now at this point of time in your preparation, right? Probably there is not much scope to increase your knowledge base. Yes, you can definitely increase your knowledge base. You can definitely solve more caselets. But then there is a limitation on how much can you improve in this 20 days. So if you're smart enough, your focus at this point should more be about how to select the correct questions and how to tick the correct answer, right? So 20 days, how many sets can you practice? Even if you practice 5 sets a day, probably 100 sets you will end up with before your CAT, new sets. But that's not what we are looking at in this strategy session. In this strategy session, I'm going to tell you how you got to attempt questions and maximize the attempts so as to increase your probability of getting more correct. Okay. Now remember, we are talking about a 40 minutes LRDI section this time. 40 minutes LRDI section this time. So how many sets are we looking at? We are looking at probably 5 to 6 sets. Previously 60 minutes, 8 sets. So 40 minutes, we are looking at 5 to 6 sets. Now this 40 minutes, right? The first and the foremost thing that can be easily improved, especially in LRDI, is your question selection. Trust me, the difference between a 90 percentiler and a 99 percentiler will at most be one set. When I say one set, we are talking about 4 extra questions. You do 4 extra questions, you solve one set more. You end up with 12 marks more, and 12 marks is all that you need to distinguish yourself from a 90 percentile and end up with a 99 percentiler. Now remember, 40 minutes, I would want you to divide it. Please focus on question selection. The first and the foremost thing, if you wish to do well in your exam, will have to be on the question sets. Will have to be on the question sets. Trust me, there cannot be a second important point than this. There cannot be a more important point than this. Now, if you have seen my previous videos also, I have told you one thing. On your computer screen, right? Your computer screen is out here, okay? You have got something like this. Question 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's say then 5, 9, and so on. Okay? Now, first thing, by default, you end up on question number 1. You end up on question number 1, and you would know that probably the set has 3 or 4 questions. So it would be written, the given information is for question 1 to 4. So moment you see that, you know that the first 3 or 4 questions are related to set 1. You just spend 20 seconds. I don't want you to read your questions at this point of time. Please do not read the question. It is just to have a glance on the first set. When you have a glance, at least you know what is the question all about. Is it a puzzle? Is it a games and tournaments? Is it a DI percentage increase? So you know the topic area. The assumption here is you are preparing well. So at least you know the topics which are there in your syllabus in the CAT for your LRDI. Then 20 seconds are over. Go to set 2. Click on question 5. Just click on question 5. Similarly, another 20 seconds. Click on question 9. This way, you are gonna make 5 clicks. You are gonna make probably 4 or 5 clicks, and probably out of the 40 minutes, you might have spent how much? 2 minutes, 1 minute to 2 minutes, 1 minute to 2 minutes, not one, I would say 2 to 3 minutes on reading or having a glance at all the sets. Trust me, it's very, very, very important. And once you have spent this 2 minutes, the remaining 38 minutes or 37 minutes, whatever is the time limit, please ensure that you use this to solve the sums. Now, someone might be thinking 2 minutes is a lot. Trust me, 2 minutes, and that helps you to choose the sets. You have mastered the art of scoring well. Please trust me, you do this and you will see a vast improvement in your LRDI score. I will come point by point, but first is the 2 minutes, you make a choice. Okay, you understand at the end of 2 minutes that you are going to attempt set number 3 and set number 5, and I'm going to tell you how you choose set 3 and 5. That is towards the latter part of the video. But at this stage, let's say that you have decided to attempt 3 and 5 in that order. You know what? It is very important that the first 10 minutes of LRDI, you are able to solve the first set at least. Why? Because that will raise your confidence level. Imagine a scenario where you actually have, I'm talking about practical scenarios, okay? Imagine a scenario where the first 10 minutes are over and you are not able to solve even a single set. Your hands will probably start trembling. You will become under a lot of pressure because you want to crack the CAT, and you know that 10 minutes are over and you've not been able to do well, right? You've not been able to solve something. So it is very important that you start on a high note. And when will you start on a high note? If the first and the second set that you chose is actually a set that you are able to solve. And trust me, in 15 minutes, even if you solve 2 sets, or let's say in 20 minutes, even if you solve the first 2 sets, not first 2 in the sense, set 3 and let's say set 5, 20 minutes are over, but you have solved 2 sets, your confidence level will increase. Pressure will reduce, and because of that, your brain will work faster under actual exam conditions, and you will tend to do even the remaining sets well, assuming you will attempt another 1.5 to 2 sets. Do you get the point? So please try in the first 15 to 20 minutes, whatever you are doing, you are getting it. That is an ideal scenario. That we are talking about at this point of time. Okay. So what I explained, I'm telling you from a very examination perspective, things which can actually be applied. Now, the second thing that you might be having in your mind is, okay, sir, you told me that I chose set 5 and set 3 and set 5. Now, what was the basis of my selection? Is something that you must be having in your mind. Okay. Now, you know that you need to choose 2 sets out of the 6, right? Okay, 5 or 6. Now, the basis for selection basis. Which sets will you end up choosing? Now, there are a lot of pointers, but the first pointer that I want to give, and which is most important, I believe, is familiarity. Familiarity with the set. When I say familiarity, moment those 20 seconds are over, let's say for the first set, you know this is a set on, let's say, linear arrangement. Example, linear arrangement. The good part is linear arrangement is something that you have practiced many a times. If you are prepared well, this is probably something that you might have solved 10, 15, 20, 25 case lists already, and hence you are familiar. Because you are familiar, your brain already knows how to process the information. So moment I say Ram is not adjacent to Sita and who is not adjacent to Ravi, so you know the meaning of that sentence. Why? Because you have already prepared, you have already practiced, you have already seen such questions. So can I have solved such questions in my first attempt? Now, having said that, there is a caveat here. Probably you are very good in linear arrangement, but it can also be that on the exam day, the question set that actually comes from linear arrangement has got 12 people. You know what? 12 people. 12 people, and they will say some are looking towards the north. I'm just giving you an example. Some are looking towards the south. Now, immediately you realize this is a difficulty level higher. Why? Because if there are 12 people, A, the number of people are more. B, if some people are looking towards the north and some are looking towards the south, you know what? The right and the left will change. So unless I know whether the person is looking towards the north or whether the person is looking towards the south, I cannot say what is his right and what is his left. Do you get the point? So the difficulty level has actually increased. Here, please be smart enough to take a conscious decision. Okay, I am good with linear arrangements, but probably at this point I want to rethink. You might have spent 2 minutes, or you might have spent another 3 minutes, or probably 4 minutes on this set, but you realize it's got to be difficult. It's gonna be difficult because there are a lot of data to process. Please get rid of your ego at this point of time. Get rid of your ego at this point of time. And what do? You get rid of your ego. You mark this question. Okay, I know that set one is on linear arrangement, but if time permits, I will solve this set in my round 2, and I will talk about round 1 and 2 later. Okay, so I will do the set in round 2, proceed to the next set. So the basis for your selection is number 1, familiarity, provided the difficulty level is low. But if the difficulty level is really high, please be smart enough to leave the set. That's point number 1. How do you choose sets in your actual exam day, under actual exam conditions, right? And under actual mock. So please practice what I'm telling you even in your mocks, so that you get well acquainted before the D-Day. The next point that I wish to mention here is, how long is my set? How long is my set? How long is my set? Is it a set which spans probably around half a page, or is it a set which probably spans across 75% of a page? Now, when I say 75% of a page, I also mean you have a vertical scroll bar, right, on your screen. So if you need to scroll up and down continuously to look at the data, it is gonna slow down your time to solve, right? So do not pick up any set in the first round which is very lengthy, So if the set is very, very lengthy, do not pick up such a set in your round 2. Am I telling you not to solve such a set? No. I'm only telling you the first 10 and 15 minutes are very crucial. Do not pick up a set which is very lengthy. It can be lengthy because there is a lot of language, there is a lot of bombastic English words, and probably you don't understand. Could be, but that is less of a reason. The more a reason why LRDI sets are lengthy is because there are a lot of variables. So probably there are 5 people, 5 different colors, 5 different trousers. They come from 5 different places. So can you see how many attributes are we talking about? We are talking about the names of people. We are talking about their favorite colors. We are talking about which places do they come from. They probably might tell you what is their percentile in mock exams. So a lot of attributes. Moment you see a lot of attributes like this, please, even if the set attempts tempting to you, do not attempt it in round 1. Trust me, the focus is all that starts well ends well. So you need to be really clever, really smart to make sure that your question selection in the first round is correct. Because if you solve the first 15 minutes, it goes really well. It will be a confidence booster. Moment your confidence level increases, the pressure is gone, and you yourself, trust me, will do well in the last 15 to 20 minutes. So very, very important that something which is very lengthy, do not pick it up. The third point, how do you decide whether you need to attempt the set? You need to look at the questions, not the actual set, but the questions before deciding whether to choose the set. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's say there is a set, okay? Let's say there is a set on your screen and there are 4 questions underneath that set. 4 questions underneath that set. Question number 1 tells you if Ravi is longer than, let's say, Sam, and Sam is greater than, let's say, Tom, okay? and then they ask you something. Then they ask you something. It means the data in the actual question is not sufficient to answer the complete set. You need additional information. You know what? You need additional information, and hence additional information is provided to you. At times, such information is provided in every question within a set. Now, what does it mean? What does it mean? Unlike those traditional sets, what happens in an LRDI puzzle? You solve the set and you are able to get all the 4 questions underneath it correct. But if think about it, but if there are 4 questions and all the 4 questions have got extra conditions, it means you have to solve the same set 4 times by inputting the different conditions every time. What does it mean? It means it has increased your time to solve the question. So do you want to solve such questions in the first go? No, you definitely do not want to solve such questions in the first go. So look for the questions. If any question has got extra data, one question, it's perfectly fine. Probably I'll have to do it one more time. But if there are 2 questions, if there are 3 questions, or at times there are 4 questions, probably you need to think whether this set is worth attempting in the first go itself. Got the point? There is another catch. There is another catch here when you look at the questions. The other catch that you need to think about while looking at the questions is, are there options like cannot be determined? Cannot be determined. Why? Because if there is an option like cannot be determined, it means multiple possibilities exist. You at least have to check, right? If there are multiple possibilities, or in other words, multiple arrangements. Now think about it again. You have prepared the set, you have completed a set, and then you get the answer option in question number 2. Let's say there is an answer option D, cannot be determined. What happens? You actually have to go back to your solution and look for if there is one more arrangement possible which you have missed out, and hence there is a cannot be determined. It might be, there is an alternate possibility, or there might not be, but at least you need to look for that, right? So what would happen? That would mean you'd be spending more time. So do I solve such questions? Probably not. So if there are cannot be determined options, okay, in every question of the set, do not attempt it in the first go. What happens if, let's say, there is one set and there are 4 questions. Let's say question A, B, C and D. But only question D has got a cannot be determined. Only question D has got a cannot be determined. Doesn't matter. Here, at least for 3 questions, there is no cannot be determined. If you are able to get the solution one time, you get your answers. You get your answer. You don't even have to look for the possibility of multiple arrangements. So immediately tick this, and you might want to take a call. Probably question number D has a cannot be determined, and I'm not sure if there is another possibility. I need to check that. What do you do? Take your time and probably mark this, because you have already solved 3 questions correctly. If you are able to take another 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but still get question number D correct, it is worth taking that time. But let's say there is a scenario when you think that to solve question D, you actually need to put in another 3, 4, 5 minutes of effort. Why? Because the question has a lot of additional data and you need to redo the arrangement. Please do not solve question D. It doesn't mean that if you have solved the set, you need to get all the 4 questions underneath it correct. It means you need to be smart. You have solved the set. There were 3 easy questions. I solved it. Question 4 involved a lot of calculations, probably a lot of arrangements. I'm going to skip to it and I'm going to the next set, because here 1 versus 4. I look at it like this. 1 versus 4. What does it mean? It means the next 5 minutes you spend, what will you get? The output is you get 1 correct. On the contrary, the next 5 minutes you spend on another set, there is a high chance that you will be able to get 4 questions underneath the second set correct. So it is a conscious decision whether I need 1 correct versus whether I need 4 correct. And here you need to let go of your ego and then let go of that one extra question and go to that 4. Last 2, 3 or 5 minutes are remaining. You are not able to solve any other set. You can always come back to this specific question and try to solve it one more time. Get the point? Okay. The third thing, we are discussing about questions, looking at the questions. The first point is, when I look at questions, I look at if there is additional data in the questions. If yes, it will lengthen my solving time. So I will think. Second, I will look for cannot be determined answer options. Third point, when you look at the questions, you will also look at other options. You will also look at other options, right? Let's take an example. There is a question, let's say question number 5 is, which is the heaviest box? Which is the heaviest box? There's a puzzle and you need to determine the heaviest box. And how many boxes are there? Let's say there are 10 boxes. 10 boxes. The answer option clearly tells you heaviest box is either A, B, C or D. So immediately you take a clue out of the answer options and put it while solving the puzzle. So while solving the puzzle, if you are trying to figure out the heaviest box, you have the answers in front of you. So even if you do not get a hint, what do? You try to take these 4 options and put it one by one and see which of these options satisfy the other criteria. Remember, the answers are always there in front of you and you need to make optimum use of the answer options. At the end of the day, when you come out of the answer hall, you even need to submit your rough sheets, right? So you don't have to show anyone how you solved it. If you get a 99.99 percentile, no one will ask you how did you solve that set. It was so tough. I solved it. I'm smart enough. So it's all about tick marking the correct answer, and that you can do if you are smart enough even without solving the entire set. The other example, if you look at 2007, 2008 or prior year question papers, you know what? There is a topic and a lot of you find this topic very difficult. What is the topic? Games and tournaments. Games and tournaments. And you know what? There are 4 questions. There are 4 questions underneath games and tournaments. But question number 3 is, how many matches were played overall? How many matches were played overall in the tournament? Now imagine, is this a question that you can solve? Probably yes. Even if you know a bit of logic or even if you know a bit of permutation and combination, you can easily tick mark question number 3. So it will be a crime if you leave out all the 4 questions. Even if you are leaving out a set, please make sure that you read the questions. When I say read, I don't mean spending 4 minutes and reading a question. I mean have a glance at the questions. Is there any question that can be solved without solving the entire set? If yes, please make sure that you tick the answer because it will fetch you 3 marks. It will fetch you 3 marks, right? And 3 marks is a lot. Trust me, in this curtail section of 2022 where there are only 40 minutes, every question is gonna count, right? So I hope I am making sense. I hope you are getting some interesting points which you can definitely try in your mocks before you attempt the actual CAT, right? The next point. In your preparation in these last few days, right? In your preparation this last few days, while preparing for LRDI, I want to talk about preparation tips. This is how you will attempt it on the D-Day. How you need to attempt the paper. I also want to spend the next 5 minutes on the preparation techniques. The preparation techniques that will help you score well. When you are preparing for LRDI, okay, divide it into 2 blocks. One is DI and one is LR. When we are talking about LR also, I'm going to subdivide LR into 2 categories. Okay. One is traditional LR, and the other is puzzles. Now, when you are preparing, please make sure that the next 20 days you solve a lot of questions on DI and the traditional LR sets. and the traditional LR sets. Now, why do I say so? Because DI and traditional LR sets are questions that often repeat. These are questions which you will be very familiar with. Talk about DI. Percentage increase. There is a pie chart. If a pie chart comes, it will be a pie chart. Probably it will be a percentage increase or something which you have already done before. Now, if you have done before, our first point becomes very strong. You are familiar with the set. So please make sure that you cover all types of DI sets. The last 2 years of the CAT, if you look at the paper, you'll notice two observations. They come up with such DI caselets which look a bit unique. But if you are able to read those caselets, understand those caselets, the questions are very easy. It can be something like a 3D diagram, or it can be something like a spider web diagram, a spider web. Now, do you know how to read these sets? Because if you know how to read a 3D diagram, you can easily get the answers. The questions will be very easy. It is just about being able to understand how to read it. So please make sure that the next few days you get exposure to different types of sets. It could be a pie diagram, it could be a scattered graph, it could be a line graph, it could be probably a spider web, something. But you need to get exposure to all these sets so that in the exam, if the graph comes and if I'm not able to read the graph, forget about solving the questions. I don't even understand the graph. So please make sure by going through the last year papers that you are not left out any of the typical sets which you don't know how to even read the diagram, how to even read the figure. Next is traditional LR. When I talk about traditional LR, we are looking at questions on arrangements. We are looking at questions on selections. We are looking at questions on distribution. We are looking at questions on probably cubes. We are looking at questions on, let's say, truth tellers, liars, alternators, questions which have come before, questions which you have seen before, and if you have practiced, you are confident about. Now, such questions put a lot of emphasis. Why? Because if they come, it will be a sort of repetition of things that you already know. So these are questions which you can expect to repeat, and if they do, and if you prepare well in advance, these are cakewalk. These are cakewalk. Contrary, you don't know how to solve a question on cubes. A question on cubes come and there are 4 questions underneath it. Imagine the remaining 2 lakh students who are writing the CAT are actually able to solve the question on cubes because probably they have done it before. But you who did not even touch cubes left a very easy set. So you definitely do not want to be at a disadvantage. And the last thing is puzzles. Now, puzzles is something which improves over a period of time. If you have been doing puzzles for so long, it is good, and I think it will be better if you put more emphasis now on the traditional LR and DI sets because they have chances of repeating. Puzzles, on the contrary, you know what? It takes time to improve, and if you have not been doing so far, okay, it is something that there are very less chances of repetition. Whatever you have done and whatever you get on the actual day might be 2 different things. At the end of the day, it's a puzzle. So on the day, D-Day, if it clicks, you're able to solve all 4 sets. But even if you do 1,000 puzzles and on the exam day, you get the 1,001 puzzle, you might still not be able to solve it. So at this point of time, I don't say do not practice puzzles, but it should be less focus area. It should be less focus area here and more focus on DI and traditional LR sets. Do you get the point? And again, less focus doesn't mean you completely leave it. The last 2-3 years, there have been a lot of puzzles. So keep practicing. But again, there are very less chances that they will repeat. Now, because you are looking for questions that you can hope to repeat, you are going to focus more on the traditional LR and DI sets. I hope I answered your LRDI quick tricks and strategy for the next few days. Remember, the next few days, it's not about how many questions you solve. It's not about the quantity. It's rather about the quality of sets. The quality of sets and the selection of sets. So whenever you practice LRDI, okay, for the next 20 days, have a timer on. Put a timer for 40 minutes, take 5 sets and try to see how many of them you are able to solve. Do not pick up any set in this last for 20 days which is very difficult, because if it is very difficult, anyway, even if it comes in the exam, you are not going to solve it, because out of 40 minutes, if you take 20 minutes to solve one caselet, probably you have to write the CAT once again next year, right? You're not going to do that. So anything which is very difficult at this point of time, just leave it out. Rather concentrate on the easy and the moderate sets so that you are able to solve more and practice more and more sets. Remember, a difficult set will eat up 1 hour of your time probably. But in that 1 hour, you can solve 4 easy sets. And I think it will be more useful. There will be greater feedback and greater benefits that you derive if you solve the easy and the moderate sets in this last 20 days, and your focus on the actual day is also about picking up those easy and moderate sets. So that's it. I hope I answered your queries. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. I hope you got some beneficial points, and I also hope that you are gonna practice and apply these techniques in the next 2-3 mocks that you are gonna write before your CAT. Because once you apply and then use it on the final day, the 29th of November, trust me, it's gonna do a lot of wonders. Okay? So thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed my session. If you like my session, do please hit the like button. Okay? And I will see you tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. for another exciting session of mine. Till then, have a great day and stay safe. Goodbye.